to me, it's just like a reminder to try to be nice. And that's about it. You can get into the academics of it, the history, proof texts, chronologies, all the details of how it came about. But as a system, it has so many excellent teachings to have people treat others really well. It's not to say that everyone does it, that everyone is 100% successful, but they're really good guidelines. And you could say, well, there's great guidelines in lots of religions. Yeah, of course there are. And you could say a bunch of the teachings in Christianity aren't even they predate Christianity. Yeah, I know. But as a package that's available today, it has a lot of really good things in it that encourage you to just like be kinder. I mean, you can talk about this stuff endlessly, and why not? There's nothing more interesting. You can trace the footsteps to where it comes from, and hear all kinds of arguing saying, yeah, well, guess what? Sorry to burst your bubble, but that comes from us. Yeah? Well, how's it working out? Like, is it visible on the surface? You're going to say that loving your neighbor as yourself comes from Judaism. Great. Does the world see that on the surface? Or can you just point to it like in a legalistic text? Say, gotcha, it's already right here, predates. That's fine, but there's a thing that goes like this. You shall know them by their fruits. So, are you living it? And then you could hear the argument back, absolutely, ask all my neighbors. Well, you live in a Jewish neighborhood. Of course you are kind to your neighbor within Israel. The issue is when you go outside of the community, do you still consider yourself charged to love your neighbor as yourself? And the answer is no. Of course not. If the person's not part of Israel, you're not commanded to love them as yourself. And so that's why you don't see it on the surface. The non-Jews will never see that on the surface because it doesn't exist. And you might say it's often apparent in Christianity where people, they forgive things that shouldn't even be forgiven, like ridiculous things like murder, kidnapping of your own daughter. Remember Elizabeth Smart got kidnapped and probably raped. I mean, the guy took her as like an additional wife, so you tell me what happened to her. She was living that way as one of his wives, and she was pretty sure she was underage, what would be considered underage. But when they found her and got her back, her dad, through tears, said he forgave him. He forgave the man. And I just thought, I don't think that that's your place to forgive. She could consider forgiving him, but I don't think you get to forgive him for what... You don't get to forgive someone for what they did to someone else. That's insane. Point being, Christianity, the pendulum swung way the other direction on that one. I mean, you could say, yes, it technically exists in Judaism to love your neighbor. Maybe not in those exact words, but, you can find it. But it only applies within Israel. It doesn't apply to the rest of the world. And then Christianity says, well, we apply it completely across the board, and we say that you should allow yourself to be, abused and all kinds of things. A lot of people are like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. You're going too far. But I think that this idea harkens back to Hinduism, where the idea is that there's nothing here but God. And you'll hear this in Kabbalah too, but where did it really come from? I don't know. Maybe Hinduism's older. Maybe it's not. I think it might be. Regardless, it's like it seems to me, and I'm no student of Hinduism, but it seems, just as a cursory, exposure to it, it seems to me that the main philosophy of Hinduism is there's nothing here but God in many different forms, and so therefore act appropriately. Meaning, if your neighbor has God inside them, or is a version of God, you're a version of God, everyone is a version of God. What are you doing stealing from them? What are you doing murdering them? What are you doing being rude or being snarky or just being nasty? What are you doing treating God like that? So treat people right. Be a good person, because they have God within them just like you do. I mean, they say many paths, one destination. One destination being the enlightenment to this, the realization of this fact, they would say in Hinduism. There's a lot of this in Christianity. Treat each other the way you want to be treated, because God's within all of you. But you will know them by their fruits. That is phenomenal. What insight. 2,000 years ago, there was some bickering going on. There was some pushback by the non-Jews to the Jews, and it's comes down in the form of the New Testament and the tale of the Pharisees being kind of a corrupt priesthood running things, and hungry hippoing all the wisdom and everything to themselves, and not letting the common person partake in the enlightenment process. And all the teachings of Christianity come along and are kind of like, hey, listen to all these teachings. Some came way before us, but we're going to put it all together just to remind you that you don't own salvation. You don't own the truth. In fact, you're quite corrupt. And what do you think you're doing? Who do you think you're hiding from? Like, what is this gobbling up of resources and power and money systems and war financing? Like, how short-sighted can you be? And it's so ironic, saying these things towards anyone that would be a member of Israel, because studying Kabbalah is, that will change your life. You will see a much bigger picture. You will have all new insights towards everything, the way you see the world, because of the realization of the polarity of things and the interplay back and forth between left and right, up and down. It's fascinating. But again, I don't think the Jews invented this. This could also predate Kabbalah, but maybe it doesn't. And the interplay with the Torah and the whole story, the different levels of studying Torah are fascinating. So anyway, be a good person.